Well, howdy YouTubers, and welcome back to the Wholesome Missile channel and a continuation of the rebuild of the Weinig U/1 or the U140/4. This is the actual machine right here. We're getting ready to reassemble the whole thing, and hopefully we won't have too many problems with the machine going back together. There's a few little challenges that were along the way. One was this hold down shoe right here. Kind of an unremarkable part, but it nevertheless represented quite a few challenges in the manufacture, being as how the old one was broken. Here's a little clip of it right here. As you can see, there was excessive damage done to the part. There were some pretty deep cracks in it, so it had to be remade. Usually, yes, Weinig can remake these parts. They just have to dig out the molds out of the archives and then cast the part. Unfortunately, that's kind of a very expensive option for companies that have the money. That's quite all right, but in this case, we're trying to kind of keep it within a relative budget, and so I ended up making that part myself. But anyway, it represented some real challenges. Here's a short clip of the thing on the mill, how it was being made. So as you can see, it was quite the setup, quite the unique setup. What can I say? The whole thing was quite a challenge. So a lot of precision welding and a lot of precision machining on it, so that it all fits and comes together. So anyway, let's begin. I'm going to put this on the other camera and do a time lapse of the whole thing going back together. I'll have to probably cut out some of the parts where, one, I go on break, or two, have to go fetch other parts, stuff like that. So yeah, let's get cracking on this thing and get her put back together. Hopefully by the end of the day we'll have it done. Well, YouTubers, we're into the second day of the reassembly of the U140. Lots of little problems that crept up. There were broken studs, stripped threads, damaged guides. I mean, you name it, there was a whole slew of problems with the machine, with the substance of the machine that weren't, initially apparent when I started reassembly. So it's taken a little longer than originally anticipated. But nevertheless, we'll show you how to set up the hold-down shoe here, right here. Now, Now, as you can see, there is a set of screws up top here. These are to change the pitch, and then the sets, well, not the set screw, but the retainer screw here, or retaining bolt. That makes this whole thing tilt. So when you're doing this, you don't want to loosen the bottom. You want to keep that fairly tight. I realize it puts a little more pressure on this, but then on the adjustment screws. But there again, you're not loosening the bottom and creating an additional point of inaccuracy, or slop that you're going to have to compensate for in the adjustment. Here's how much we moved. This aggregate here, these hold downs, they'll get turned back around eventually. Right now they're just up to be out of the way. So if there's any question about that, that's the reason those are upside down right now. And with that, let's continue on and align the fence. Now these two guides right here behind, or this one underneath the top spindle and the one behind the bottom spindle, are your permanent guides. Now these were ground as a set so that they had to, I was able to grind these on the grinder we have, the knife grinder. And so I was able to get these to one dimension, and that's critical for this application. So these are going to be your fixed points in the machine that basically are immovable. Now, because you have a machine surface right here where these mount up against, and this one is the most critical one here. This one can actually move a little bit. You can actually move this one in and out a touch. But once it's up against the base of the machine back here, that's it. That's as far as it goes. So then you take your straight edge, but first you make sure everything is perfectly clean, because every little grit piece, whatever you got crud laying there, will throw off your measurement. And so you take your straight edge and just push it up against there. Now you want to make sure that there's no gaps. You want it touching at least in the very front, here, here, and here. And if it's touching on all those 4 points, then you're good to go. Then you can just kind of slide this whole thing back and then catch the next set of guides. So now we've got the ruler up against the second guide, and now we're going to check. Sorry about the shadow here. It's early morning and the sun's just coming up. So anyway, you want to make sure you have, if you're not touching, that you have the same gap all the way across. Now, yesterday when I set this up, it was pretty well right on the money, but nevertheless, I'll back this off here a little bit and demonstrate this from a different angle. So as you can see there, we got a little bit of gaposis going. Now we just want to close in or dial in our fence until it closes in. Now you can see we've got a little bit of, it touches back here, but a little bit of gap right here. Now, normally this wouldn't be ideal, but given the nature of this machine, I think we can live with the gap. We've got about, 3 or 4 microns there of difference, and I think that's going to be, for this application, good enough. Now, so now we're going to go ahead and put in a cutter, and now we're going to go ahead and set it up. As you can see, we've got a little bit of gaposis going here. So let me back this fence off up here. Now we're going to run this fence in until it picks up and pushes our straight edge away from the cutter. We'll just keep a little pressure on it back here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to rotate the cutter just ever so slightly until it, now as you can see, when the knife passes here, and this is going to be indicative of all cutters, you want it to strike the straight edge just ever so slightly to where it'll pick up a little gap here. It doesn't need much. A few tenths of a millimeter is fine. So now it's time to check our overlap here where the two tables meet. This is the infinity table here, and here's the receiver plate. So now we're going to, there is a difference because when you run the straight edge up here, it bumps into it. I'm sure it fell down. So as you can see, it just bumps right into it. Nice and solid, nice and sound. So yesterday we ascertained and measured it, and it was between 4 tenths and 5 tenths or a half millimeter of difference. So now we're going to take our depth micrometer here, because we're going to shim this and raise it up. So now we're just going to see what kind of a difference we've got here. We'll go out here to the edge first. Now nothing's bolted down, so once it tightens down it'll be a little different, but you know, the gravity alone will show us what's going on here. So here we got 0.45. So we've got between the, well, what I said, you know, the 0.04 and 0.5. So back here, and we got the same thing again. Let's see, there we go. Try to get that in frame here and keep the glare down a little bit. We have a set of idler rolls down here on the bottom of the table, and so we need to have those roughly, about half a millimeter. Right now it looks like we got roughly that, because we're bumping just right into the table here. So as we raise the table up, we want this to stand proud, and there's a set of, you can't quite see it, it's not quite in frame down here. The axes are eccentric, and so we can raise and lower these rolls by a few tenths. I don't have the tool for it. I'm going to have to make it yet or order one to be able to adjust these, and then we can go from there. But for now, we're just going to leave it and let the wood glide across there. Normally, like I said, you want about 1/10 of a millimeter proud, where there's 1/10 of a millimeter to 2 between the table and your straight edge, in order, you want these rolls a little higher than the table itself. So here's a piece of foil. We're just going to fold it up 4 times. This is roughly, or exactly, 1/10 of a millimeter thick. So we're going to fold it up 4 times and lay a nice long strip along the bed of the machine here. First, we're going to put down a little bit of copper paste here, and that's just to keep the foil from sliding away. Now this is just a foil, so it doesn't really matter if it touches the rolls or not. Alrighty, so now let's lay our straight edge up on here, see where we're at. Okay, we're just even with the table, and lo and behold, our straight edge, yeah, you can kind of see it. Let me swing the camera around here a little bit. So our straight edge has a little bit of air. Now once we tighten down these bolts here, I'm betting that this closes up. Okay, now as I predicted, this would pull down a little bit. However, we still got the problem where we don't have the clearance where this still butts up against the table here, so we're going to have to shim just right along here. We're going to leave the rest of it the way it is, and then shim the rest. We got, some gronk on it right here in order to see how far it's going to pull down. And like I said, now the rolls are a little higher. The rolls are a little higher than the table, which is optimal, but right here we still got a lip. So yeah, buddy. Well, YouTubers, that's a wrap for this little series of Riding the Fence. The reason I included, this in the Riding the Fence series is showing you how to adjust the fence in this part of the machine, and get everything all set up, and, adjust your cutters accordingly. I'll give you another little walk around here towards the end. It'll be another few days before this machine is back in operation. The operator that normally is active on this machine isn't here today. So anyway, I hope you guys were able to glean a few lessons out of this whole mess here. Don't know what else to say other than, if you do have any thoughts, comments, suggestions, and critiques, by all means put them in the comment section below. Tom Lipton gave me some good advice. I'll include that as part of the comment section below. And particularly on the lapping end of it. I'm just going to put that part of the correspondence in there so that you guys can pick up on it and apply that as well. That's some useful information that Tom provided, and I feel it should be shared with the viewership as well. I don't know what else to add to this other than it was quite the hair-raising experience. If I had to do it over again, all I can say is I'm glad I took the care and the time to in the preparation in order to get this thing set up the way it was. It turned out good, so it goes to show that good prep work definitely pays off in the long run. The machine came together a little slower than I would have liked. I was envisioning about a day, so it took a little over a day and a half to get it reassembled and set up right. Mainly because everything that could have been adjusted wrong on this machine was. There was nothing on this thing that was correct from the setup from inception, from in-feed to out-feed table. So I had to go through and readjust everything, and hopefully we'll see this thing in operation and, well, see how it goes, I guess. So with that, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for your patience on this. I realize that these 2 episodes have gotten quite lengthy. I do apologize for that, but you know, it was all in the nature of the beast. I could have made a 3rd episode out of it, but then it gets to be kind of a tedium too. So anyway, thanks for stopping by and watching this video, and we'll hope to see you all again soon.